Hey there and good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. Gosh, we have a great one today. Today is interview intervention, all those things that we can do before our next interview. You know, when I named this particular lecture, and it's one of many in my series, I thought about the real challenge when it comes down to interviewing, and I thought intervention really fit that challenge. We need someone to stop us, essentially, before it's time for our next interview and correct quite a number of things. I'm John Crant. Nice to have you here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Hang on just one second, and we'll get that up. Oh, look at that. There we are. Welcome. Appreciate you guys joining in. Now, today is the interview intervention lecture. Absolutely. We're going to have that up on screen one second. There. That's what I'm looking for right there. So in case you're joining in each Tuesday and Thursday, coming up on Thursday, we're going to have Charting Your Career Transition. That is a 12 noon lecture on Thursday. A lot of things to think about when you want to take your skill set and maybe go do something else. Then next Tuesday, that's next Tuesday, same time, 5 p.m., same time as today, that is Marketing Yourself to the Decision Maker. Now, if you'd like to work for HR, guess what? Your decision maker is right within HR. But if your intention is not to work for the HR department, your decision maker is actually someplace else. That lecture will teach you the right way to reach out right to the decision maker and captivate them and get them interested in you. Following that, next Thursday, that's next Thursday, week from this Thursday, that's at 12 noon, and that is resume renovation, all the secrets to really create a winning resume that really elevates your brand. That's our whole goal here. Let me just replug my connector here, which doesn't seem to want to talk to my remote, because it'll be a lot nicer if I have the remote. Look at that. We have a remote. So welcome to today, interview intervention. You know, we misunderstand what an interview is all about. I mean, so many of us are of the mindset that, I have to go in and be interrogated. You know, the interview, the whole discussion, it's about influence. It's about your ability to nuance communications to make sure that they see your value or see an elevated value for you compared to the others. In other words, right there it is. It is your job to teach them how to select you. Now, typically those in hiring, they have an idea of the title, probably pretty close to what they'd like to hire. Sometimes maybe one or more levels a little lower than they'd like, just to see what they can get. They probably have an idea of the overall budget or salary range. But the real truth from all my years in recruiting, and I'll certainly share that background with you, is that they don't really know what they want to hire. A general idea, but they don't really know what they'd like to hire until they see it, until they kick the tires. So it's your job to go into this meeting understanding what it really is. It's a sales meeting. It's an opportunity for you to differentiate yourself from the others. Now, a lot of us think, I'll just be cookie cutter perfect. I'll be perfect. Really? If you'd like to be any of those people that are cookie cutter perfect interchangeable, may seem secure to you, but if you're one of those folks and I'm hiring you, I am paying you less, you're getting less money. Now, if you don't want less, I'll take the one next to you or the one on the other side of you, because they're all interchangeable. You have to somehow, in discussion of the interview, not only portray yourself as, yes, interchangeable, capable, qualified, without question, just like those other folks, but in addition to that, somehow unique, special, different. How are you going to essentially step out of the line and showcase your value? Now, if you haven't seen any of my lecture series before, and there's a whole bunch of them, please do check out my YouTube channel, my Facebook channel. All that has a lot of content on it. John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru. Now, you should really understand the background of anyone that's teaching you. And that's not to throw shade at anybody. That is so that you understand how to parse and value the information that you're receiving, how to align the right segments of that information with what aligns in your core values, and essentially how to use it and rank that information compared to something somebody else might say. So 7 or 8 years as an outside recruiter. That's a traditional headhunter. Have to go into the competitor company, lure out the top talent, shepherd them through the whole interview process, It's very, very similar to being a glorified dating guru. Very, very similar. Oh, maybe I should have gone millionaire matchmaker. Different, different route. That would be another very, very similar role. So, 7 or 8 years on that, 3 different disciplines on a desk as a traditional headhunter. That 2 of those, by the way, I did as a national market. Simply means I never met anyone, every single bit over the phone. Lots of placements. And then I did a 3rd discipline, which was a local market in Manhattan. Suddenly I had to meet everyone. Everything does change when you get in front of people. Absolutely. Great lesson there. Also ended up for 3.5 of the total years I was in recruiting as the national trainer. So we had a 100 office recruiting system. And as each potential office would hire possible recruiters or those that thought they could be a recruiter, they come into my 90-day program to teach them how hiring really works. And it is not how people think it works. If it worked that way, wouldn't need these lectures, wouldn't need career coaches, wouldn't need to think out of the box. Of course, ended up being VP over all of those offices before stepping out to do what I do now, which is working one-on-one with clients, helping them elevate their brand, helping them lift their LinkedIn profiles to the concept of becoming this 3-dimensional sales brochure all about you. That naturally drives the reader to one singular conclusion. My gosh, if I hire that person, work with that person, best business decision I'll make today. Now, you're not really going to say those things, but what you do say has to, of course, drive them to that conclusion. Huge, huge difference. And of course, I give these lectures for a variety of organizations, especially in a non-pandemic year. New York State Department of Labor, multiple locations, New York Public Library, multiple locations, including their Job Search Central location, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program, Harvard Business School Club of New York City, CUNY, many, many others. By the way, on the Harvard Business School Club of New York City, those folks really like that background. And you know what? I don't have that background. But you know what they like even more than that background? They like the right answers, which is why they booked me and why they were so thrilled with what I taught them. So there you know where the information is coming from, the direct experience, a few ideas in my book. We'll skip over that part. It's all available if you want to see it over my website, selfrecruiter.com. So one other thing, resource-wise, that will help you over on my homepage, about halfway down the page, you can see this double setup of both myself and the slides for my LinkedIn lecture, probably one of the most important lectures in raising your brand value. You can really use that as a start and stop tutorial as you improve your own LinkedIn profile and really elevate it to the idea of a selling brochure. Now, I grew up Catholic, which means I know all about modesty and humility. Absolutely, absolutely. Wonderful traits, by the way, for so many parts of our life, but not job search and not career. I might even say in these areas, we have to think a little bit more like a Kardashian, maybe not that far, but we do have to think out of the box. Your job is to elevate, to sing your praises. Your job is to get out of your own way, not really, oh, well, I'll just be the pretty little flower, Oh, they'll just pick me. They're not going to pick you. They're waiting for you to stand up and recommend they pick you at some point. So we're going to teach you all of that today. A lot of good things in that resource over there that will help you. Now, in addition to that, over my LinkedIn, you can click on my articles, a few different articles over there that will really help you. Things like not let your resume become resume roadkill, how to not mismanage your time, and all of those things that are very, very important to a job seeker and very important once we're in our career looking for that next step. Now, today, as is our entire series, it's about becoming this self-recruiter, this one amazing, great recruiter that works with one great candidate, which is you. Now, you're also going to have to be the strategist, the cheerleader. You got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps when necessary, all of that together, along with being the person that's in front of the camera, because it's going to be remote interviewing these days. So we're going to have to get very comfortable in front of the camera. By the way, if you are not yet at this point that you see comfortable in front of the camera, I recommend another lecture of mine over my YouTube site called Presentation Guru, or How to Be a Presentation Guru. Really all the secrets that I'm using today to set yourself up for proper success. Now, implement all of those, and we're going to touch on some of those, especially toward the end of today. Camera setup, everything else. How do you look your best in this kind of stressful environment? So the other part of becoming a self-recruiter is, of course, networking in a very different way. That is what we do on LinkedIn. exponentially changing the idea of networking. Not just that singular direct outreach, but how do I mechanize this and take it exponential? Also requires keeping one eye on the toughest competitor imaginable. Those 4, 5, or 6 people that want that same job. Oh, they're just going after the job and get the job. And, maybe I'll get the interview. That's always lovely. But it doesn't work that easy. It doesn't work that simply for most of us. Oftentimes we're sending in our resume. I mean, I'm perfect. And crickets, we don't hear anything back. It's like, well, I don't understand. They asked for exactly me. Well, keep in mind, they didn't know what they were looking for. So when they saw exactly what they were asking for, that wasn't really what they were looking for. They didn't know how to ask for what they were looking for. Everyone's sitting home hitting this darn button. Rarely does it really say apply. Almost always says submit, all capital letters, until we're so submissive. It's like a Friday night waiting for that phone to ring. Oh, it's going to ring. It's going to ring. When it does, it'll be a telemarketer. It's going to leave you in these kind of unhappy places. Now, when I was giving these lectures live all the time, well, of course, this one's live today as well. Let me get a little sip here. When I was giving these to a live audience in person, someone would go, that's not very uplifting. And I'd look at it and I go, it's not. But it is part of the human condition and we have to deal with it. So don't get stuck looking in the rearview mirror. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, if I only did. Every one of us have those type of regrets or we wish we could do something over again a little bit differently. If there is something to correct or fix, absolutely do it. Then quit looking in the rearview mirror and let's look ahead, because your opportunity is just ahead. And that's going to require, especially in the interview process, thinking in a more unusual, unconventional, unexpected way. Simply change the equation of diminishing returns simply by changing the rules. You never agreed to these rules. I love this slide. Mediocre. This is my favorite definition of the entire series. So I'm going to read this one to you. Of only moderate quality. Not very good. I promise not to read all the rest of the slides. Ordinary, average, middling, middle of the road, uninspired, undistinguished, indifferent, unexceptional, unremarkable. Amateur. Okay. So come see, come saw, plain vanilla, not up to much. No great shakes. Bush league. Well, those definitions do change over time. The reason this is here is you have to start with some foundation. This is very upsetting when we think about what this really represents. This represents the bulk of the workforce. And that's what's wrong with the economy, our companies, our stagnated wages, everything else. It all comes from really mediocrity. I know we like to think of ourselves as the very best, and I think we can be as a country, but there's a lot of mediocrity. So in the workforce, about half the workforce is mediocre, really just showing up for the paycheck. Don't want to do anything outside of the bounds of what's really required. So what does that mean for you? What do you have to be? Little tiny bit, let's get this ring, a little tiny bit better than mediocre. And then you're ahead of the majority of people. Just put a little heart, soul into whatever function you do. You'll naturally rise to the top, be the top 1, 2, 3% in that field. Just don't be mediocre and don't wait for permission. We'll talk more about that because we're going to have to violate a few of those things in the whole process of the interview. Now, we're this product. You are there to represent this product. You are there to sell this product. You're not there to put it on display, and I hope they pick me. Well, good luck with that. You're going to need to know what your story is, and you're going to have to get very comfortable with telling that story. You're going to have to get very comfortable with telling that story as if you're telling it to a dear old friend you haven't seen in 5 years. Still absolutely letter truthful, but a little more rose-colored glasses, a little more of that look. Now, when we do get ready to tell our story in an interview, that could happen in person, though not very likely these days, or not as often these days. It could be over the telephone, very likely these days. Could be a video or Zoom or a Google Meet or any of those things. Absolutely, very, very likely these days. And yet most of us really aren't ready for that. So in addition to this lecture, I hope you watch that, How to Be a Presentation Guru. There's a lot of technique and tips in there that will help you, even though we're going to cover a little bit of that today. So if I'm going to walk in the door and essentially teach them how to select me, I'm going to have to know all about my product. The problem is you know about your product in only a certain way of telling that story. You've told your story for so long the same way. it's very difficult to tell it truthfully in a new way, a different way, and to think about it's a giant chess game of story that you're assembling here, and you have to use each piece very carefully and think about how they interconnect. So it starts with some basics. Why am I more valuable than the next 6 people that want that job? The very best of the best. Now, here's some interesting advice for your interview. Don't answer questions. Well, what? Don't answer questions. Yes, there is a Q&A. It is an interview. They're going to ask you questions. They're going to expect an answer. But I'm sorry, your job is not to go in there and answer questions. Your job, in my view, and everything I'm teaching you today is my opinion. Your job, in my view, is to walk in that door using the device of the Q&A to really position and sell yourself. You're going to have to do what a really great politician does. Now, they're great at politics, not necessarily the outcome. Let's look at any great politician that has accomplished something. You know, basically, they never answer the question that was asked. Whatever you ask them this question, they answer that question. You ask them that question, they answer this question. Essentially, they answer any question they wished they were asked. Now, a few years ago, this was a few springs ago, Tim Cook, who's running Apple, was giving wasn't a commencement address, but he was speaking to a college audience. I know he gives a lot of commencement addresses, but it wasn't one of those. So he's speaking to a college audience, and of course, it's all over YouTube because it was in a classroom, and everyone's holding their iPhones, all that kind of stuff, and recording it. And somebody asked him an extremely inappropriate question. When is it okay not to listen to our professors? Oh, thank you for that great question. Thank you for hosting me, Mr. and Ms. Professor. And he said, well, like any great politician, he rephrased the question. Well, I think what you're asking me, that's simply technique. I think what you're asking me really is, when is it okay not to follow the rules? And I think that I think you should write the rules, or you're never actually going to get to what you're dreaming of. So, gosh, that was a very interesting and surprising answer, and you can watch it on video. But that's a great technique to learn from. Simply think about that your job is to use them, this device of their questioning, to give spectacular answers, which very likely will probably include some of the answer. Maybe not, if I choose not to have it in there. Can't seem evasive, so you do have to give them enough of what they like, but your job is to answer it in such a way that positions and sells you, lifts your brand, demonstrates your skill set, also demonstrates how easy you'll be to work with, how much command you have of your expertise in space. Let's get right to a quick answer here. There's only 2 reasons you will ever be hired, assuming you're capable or qualified. By the way, I will never hire someone because they're capable or qualified. Please don't mishear that. I wouldn't even consider somebody that was not capable and qualified, but that's not the deciding piece. Your resume shouldn't even be on the table here if I don't think you're capable and qualified. Why I hire you is really simple. Number 1 above all other things is chemistry. And number 2 above all other things than chemistry is confidence. And that's before your credentialing, the background, what you produce for other employers is before any of that, assuming you're capable or qualified. So we're going to use this position and sell ourselves. We're going to answer the questions we wish we were asked. Now, I already told you this secret. It's chemistry and confidence. So it's not simply, oh, look, I'm perfect. Great. Inspire me, because I just don't hire people because they look perfect. Show me the chemistry. Why is this chemistry thing important? Well, if I hire you, I'm going to spend more time with you than my loved ones. And that's why we want to like people. It really comes down to that simple equation. So yeah, we tend to hire people that are similar to us or similar background. And sometimes we read that as a different type of bias. But really underneath, it's, I just want to get you. I want to know who you are. What makes you tick? Why are you interesting? What drives you? Yes, that creates engagement, which is a lot closer to this type of engagement in reality. So go back to the what's your story. And yes, at a minimum, of course, have the capable and qualified background. That is without saying. But the why are you interesting is the story. What makes you tick? Now, as an example, A few years back, I was helping this individual reinvent their whole background, their whole career story, tell it in a slightly different way, still truthful, and had an amazing run in marketing. All this nice career progression, this wonderful background of brands. I'm like, wow, that's an amazing story. But at some point before going into marketing, this gal had become a certified locomotive engineer, like choo-choo train. It's like, you better believe right below the degree, 7-point bold, certified locomotive engineer. At first you look at that kind of background and you think it's like some turd. Oh, there's a turd on my resume. Really? That turd is going to deliver you interview after interview after interview. You don't understand the selection process. I have a table full of people that seem dazzling from a qualification standpoint. I'm looking for, why are you interesting? What makes you tick? What drives you? Tell me something. Oh my gosh, look at that. Certified. Wow, that's a nice background in marketing. I have to hear that story. Put it on the list. Put it on the list. This individual got so many interviews simply by understanding what to disclose. Another client of mine, this was a few falls ago, end of October. I was just finishing up the resume and the LinkedIn updates, putting the final little polishes and touches. And suddenly my client goes, oh, I'm about to be a 4-time marathon runner next week. I'm like, what? You're about to be a 4-time marathon runner? This is the first time John's hearing about it? Well, that doesn't have anything to do with my work. It doesn't? Well, you seem like you're getting a little mature to me. There's a lot of fear over getting mature in our career. Don't forget to tell all the right parts of the story. What does a 4-time marathon runner tell me? Wow, energy, drive, really amazing at going after goals, unstoppable, probably really good on my healthcare costs. They think about it all. Don't forget the interesting parts of the story. And sometimes they're the things that you might have hidden previously, thinking they were not something valuable. You're going to have to go through a paradigm shift in your storytelling, fundamental change to how you think about your whole background. Now, what I recommend in prepping for an interview is, if you haven't reinvented your brand properly across the resume and LinkedIn profile and all that before that, then before your interview, sit down and have a deep dive 90-minute self-interrogation. It's about what I do with my clients. It does feel like an interrogation with my clients as I'm digging around, looking under the bed, in the closet, under the last rock, looking everywhere for what you forgot, what you dismissed, what you cast away so long ago. Oh, that's nothing. Go back and rediscover all of that. Then filter it through one singular question, little lens. Why is it going to be the very best business decision that they're going to make today if they choose to hire me? So that will help you select the right stories to talk about, the things that showcase you as unique, interesting, probably worth more money than just the rest. And that's how we begin to change the rules, simply by changing the equation and changing our approach. Now, these rules, you never really agree to them. Sometimes there's rules on that job posting. By the way, that job posting, I have a different phrase for that document. I call it the list of the irrelevance. That's a new word with a T and an S on it, because everything on that list is almost irrelevant to this job. Tangentially connected, absolutely. That is not a picture of the day-to-day of this job. You know what happens? You know how that job description gets written? Most of it is a fill in the blank form. Oh, fill in the blank. I love fill in the blank. What do you think we should hire? A little salt, a little sugar, a little spice. Oh, but must have that. No, won't be considered without this. Won't be considered without a master's degree. That's how that stuff gets written. I hope you didn't not go after some job that you know, oh, that's right for me. And then you see something on this ridiculous bullet list. Oh, I don't have that. Pick up my toys and go home. Really? Your gut told you were perfect for this job, and because you were missing some piece, you didn't get in the game? Now, let's tell you why that's valuable to you. As I was VP over all 100 offices of the recruiting system, I could suddenly see all of the back end of all the placements. I could see everything that happened and did a lot of data analysis. And boy, this company has been in business since the 1950s. And boy, they're rigorous at collecting their data. And when I did an analysis looking backward at all placements across the system, you know what I found? About 50% of all hires seem to hire someone missing 2 or 3 absolutely must have this or you won't be considered. What? Why are they hiring these people? Are they fooling them? No. First off, they don't know what they want to hire. Secondly, they've got to kick the tires. And when they find the right chemistry and they have confidence in you, whatever piece you're missing, oh, but they don't have this one. Oh, they'll pick that up. You know what's harder? I can't find the right fit for my team. Now you're the right fit for my team. Perfect. Let's get in the game. This does not mean to misrepresent yourself and pitch yourself for some job that you can't deliver, but you owe it yourself to get in there and fight for every job. And sometimes that requires breaking a little bit of the rules. Now, interviewing is about communication mastery, which is really the soft skills. Soft skills are our emotional intelligence quotient. All these things here that I really don't have to read to you, but I do want you to look at the last two here on the list. Friendliness and optimism. I am so optimistic, Sagittarius, by the way. The sun will come up tomorrow, even if it's a nuclear holocaust. And I sure hope it isn't, but the sun is going to come up tomorrow no matter what. It's your job to be the ultimate optimist about you and your product. At the same time, inside your head for interviewing, it is wonderful to also secretly have the largest pessimist that you've ever met sitting right in here. And their job is to listen to every single word that flows in through your ears and disbelieve it and then react to it. Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear what they said? That type of voice in your head is really great at coming up with questions. Ask them this to test them. That's what we need to develop as part of our tool set coming out of our emotional intelligence quotient. Friendliness and optimism is to charm and disarm them while we use the rest of our tools to extract information that could help us. So this is all about influence. This is all about walking in the door, or figuratively walking in the door if we're doing it on video, and learning how to sweep them off their feet so they just have to have you. I just have to have you on my team. Now, if I'm going to go in for an interview, let's imagine your interview is next Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, so it's next Tuesday. Thank goodness. You've got a whole week to prepare. First thing you'd like to do is to warm up your audience. Have they sent you the names of the people that you're going to meet? Okay, but they sent me a couple names. Did they send you, let me rephrase that. Did they send you all of the names that you're going to meet? Doesn't sound like it. Email them back. Email them back. No, I just emailed them. Email them again. It is worth it. Dear Jack, Jim, Jill, whatever it might be. Of course, looking forward to meeting with you next Tuesday. Can you share with me who else I am likely, there's an important word, to meet so I can fully prepare for the meeting? And they will tell you. And the 1 out of 500 that won't tell you, you need to run as fast as you can. But just tell them why you're asking and they'll tell you. If you forget to include that word likely, you're probably not going to get anything. They were like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Who am I going to meet with? I don't know. I don't know yet. Not confirmed. Who am I likely? Well, they're going to spill. Well, probably Jack and Jill and maybe a couple of your peers might be involved besides Tim and myself. Okay, I got 2 more names. I got a reference to 2 of my peers. I can go on LinkedIn just as I teach in my LinkedIn lecture right on my website, halfway down the page. And I can go into LinkedIn, do a reverse lookup and realize, oh, I have 6 peers. I'm going to have to win the chemistry vote and the confidence vote from each person I meet. And they all may have different criteria of what they need to see or hear or whatever it might be. So I need to plan on how I'm going to build chemistry with all 6 of those people, even though I'm only going to meet 2 of those people. First step is when you do have your list of names is to open their profiles on LinkedIn. This triggers a marketing event. If you've ever gone into your profile and it says, oh, 6 people have looked at you, 6 people have looked at you. If you've not looked at this, you will look at it after this. And once you start looking, you really can't stop. So this is a tool, by the way, that LinkedIn uses to build desire for a paid membership to LinkedIn. By the way, I only use the free version of LinkedIn. If you'd like a paid version, you should use one. If you'd like the free version, everything I teach you, you can do on the free version. So I understand what that mechanism is really for, but I can use it for myself in job search. I can use it to look behind the firewall of the company, behind all those people I need to influence. So the first thing I'm going to do is simply open up all those people I'm going to meet next week, simply open their profiles. I'm going to, if I have not connected with them as part of my earlier outreach process, I'm certainly going to do it now, ask them to connect with a gentle reminder about next Tuesday. Looking forward to meeting you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. There's the little reminder. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Keep in mind, it's not personal. Many of these people will not accept until they meet you because, oh, I'm about to meet you. Let's see you. That's okay. It's not about getting the connection in this case. It's about getting them to read about you in advance. Now, if you'd like to see how that works and how we value information that we've read, great movie from the 1980s, I think it is, called Tucker, The Man in His Dream with Jeff Bridges. And it's about these big automaker car guys that decide, we don't want to work for the man any longer. We'd like to go out and build a better car. And they design a better car. They pool all their money, design a better car. They're ready to go out there. They're getting ready to secure the steel they're going to need, the manufacturing facilities they're going to need. But you know what? To make this whole plan work, they need to begin to sell franchise dealerships. If they sell the dealerships, then they'll have the revenue to make it all work. And when they go in to show off the drawings, really, of the car to each dealer, oh my gosh, are they excited? Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm ready to sign. When do I get to see the car? I'm ready to sign. When do I get to see the car? Now, are you ready to sign? Or do you need to see the car? What do you mean, see the car? There is no car. It's chicken or the egg. And they quickly realize this isn't going to work. We're not selling dealerships. They all want to buy dealerships, but we're not selling them because they can't see the car. And then they decided we might have to go back and work for the man again. But before we do, let's take the last little bit of money that we have. And they spent it on a 2-page spread in the newspaper. Boy, I saw a lot of these in the 1970s growing up. Just a 2-page wonderful drawing in the newspaper of the car, the son, the family all around, just amazing. And suddenly that phone is ringing off the hook to buy dealerships. Those cars are no more real today than yesterday. That's perception. That's what we value. Now, if that's a simple demonstration of if someone tells you information, you first parse it and value and decide, should I believe it and how valuable is it? You go through this whole equation in our brain. But if you were to read the same information yourself, well, you have no problem with your own credibility. You tend to believe whatever it is you read. Please do not use that to misrepresent. That's not what it's about, but it is about getting them to read about you in advance. So the opening asking to connect lures them onto my full sales brochure. Oh, I'm meeting this guy. Click. What's he all about? Oh, he's a nice background. I can't wait to see him. Open, ask to connect. You're about to meet me. I'm professionally appropriate. Give him a little stroke to the ego. And of course, if you're put in the date and time and all that piece. Oh, there you go. Looking forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Blah blah blah. It's short. It's simple. It's direct. It's customer service. It's a demonstration of how easy and frictionless you will be when you work there. Did you notice that message that was just on screen does not require a response? I know you want one. I know I want one too. But every message has to be constructed with a value for them that requires no response in return. You have to trust that the value is there. The whole goal is, of course, to get them on your full LinkedIn profile, your sales brochure about you that positions and sells you. That's the gentle figurative nudge. Look at me. I'm a sharp product. And pay attention to your sharp products. That's your resume and your LinkedIn profile. Small changes change perception dramatically. Your job is to be persuasive, and it really starts there. So we're going to have to build an entire interview plan if we're going to be successful. Let's get down to some meat and potatoes. We're going to build our agenda. Our agenda. Look at that. Because, it's a sales meeting. That's what an interview is. And guess who is in charge? You are. I don't mean like a steamroller. I'm a bull in the china shop. No, that's not very popular. That's not. My gosh, if they'd like to feel in control, I'm going to let them feel in control. But I'm going to be in control like a puppet master, controlling everything. So I have to build an agenda. We're going to come back to each one of these. I have to do a needs analysis. Oh, scary sales term. I have to customize and select my work life stories because, all those people I'm meeting, I may decide each one, oh, this one needs to hear this piece. Oh, this one over here and their function needs to hear this other piece. So I have to select and customize and get those stories ready. Be ready to tell them like a great story. How did you land that job? That was so interesting. The CEO had picked up the phone and dialed me. And, I picked up without realizing it. And suddenly they're right there, inviting me into the company. And I have to say, I'm so proud of everything I've delivered for that organization. Oh, look how I put you right in my shoes in that pivotal moment, the CEO interrupted their day to reach out to you. By the way, that has to be true if you're going to say it. But there's a lot of story most people have that they're just not telling correctly. When there's something missing, we have to go after it. We have to not be afraid of it. I'll teach you how to do that. We have to overcome the objections. It's their job, by the way, to object to us. That is the whole point of an interview. So I'm not sure why that would freak us out. Oh, you don't have background in this field. You've never done this role before. I haven't. That's agree but disagree technique, by the way. I haven't done this role before. I'm right for it. I'm qualified for it, capable of doing it. I haven't done it before. Everybody has a first day in some new role, still capable and qualified. So I can't fudge that part. The best way is to agree but disagree. And I go, oh. Of course, I don't have that background, but I'm sure you'll meet a lot of those folks in the other candidates. Everyone else is always a candidate with a little that you'll see. What I bring to the table as an individual is something very unique. And it's actually why I'm going to really be the best hire for this role. Chemistry and confidence. They would not waste oxygen on you if they didn't think, oh, maybe I'm going to have to ask you this, going to have to test you here. So understand it is a show and you are the dog or the pony. Trot it out onto that stage and dazzle them. Overcome those objections. And we have to close them. That's another scary sales term. Get them to think about why we're the very, very best person. And we get that job or get the next interview or whatever the next step is. Let's drill down on this and give you more detail on each section so you develop a thorough interview plan. Every interview that you go on should be sharpening your conversational abilities and skill set for the next interview, the next opportunity, the next year, the next decade of our career. So in building our agenda, you wouldn't go into a sales meeting. If you're representing a product or service for your company and you have to go out and sell it to some other company, you wouldn't go into that meeting without an agenda, would you? Ridiculous. Of course not. You shouldn't be going into an interview like an open, check my teeth, see what the hooves are good on my feet, whatever it might be. No, you have an agenda you have to communicate. So we have to think about an effective agenda requires, well, who am I going to meet? How am I going to build chemistry with each of those persons? And they all may require something different. Which stories specifically should I talk about that will really maybe get the yes vote from each one? I got to get that yes vote from every single one. What will make them jump out of their chair? Is there something? And I have to make sure to have that. And think out of the box. What else do they need to hear? There's must be something else. And I have to think and brainstorm as I interview. Needs analysis, second step in the whole process. Needs analysis is simply a scary sales term. Really means, why don't you not answer too many questions before you actually ask them what they need? Years ago, I had a client that was doing this a few times and they did it all correctly. And then they secured a big interview in a financial house. And they went in and they spent an hour teaching these folks exactly the unique thing that they did within the marketing function for finance. And it wasn't until the end of the interview, they realized they were teaching them and telling them the wrong story because they went this time simply by the job posting. They assumed, oh, I know what they want. And they forgot to do the needs analysis. And at the end of the meeting, they said, well, wow, that's so interesting and so unique, but that's not actually what we're looking for because they didn't know how to write the job posting correctly. So even if they catch you off guard, oh, John, tell me about your story. Tell me about your career. Oh, shucks. I wanted to ask you a question first, and now you beat me to it. And so you don't think I'm going to answer that question, do you? Oh, John, tell me all about yourself and your career. I would love to. Agree but disagree technique. Before I do Jack, Jim, or Jill, I'd like to make sure my answer is really as focused and valuable for you as possible. Of course, I've done my homework. Can't let them think you didn't do your homework. I've read the job posting. I've, looked at competitors, looked at the space and challenges within the industry. You know what? But I'd love to hear from your perspective. Ooh, stroke that ego. I'd love to hear from your opinion, your advice. What is it that I really need to get control of in the first 30 to 60 days as I step into this role? Wow. I just projected myself into the role. They now imagine that I'm stepping into this role. I'm here. I'm into the role. And they're going to tell me from that simple question, they're going to tell me what's on fire, what's just derailed, why the last person got fired, all the things that are really not in the job posting. It's your job to uncover those things. If they're not very conversant, if they're not really giving you anything to work with, you can drill down with questions. Well, what are some of your pain points, which will illustrate some of those things I was just after? Or what would you like to change? Or what do you wish was different? Or what would you like to solve? Or what do you need to be invented? Really, why is this job open? That can help us a lot too. And what have they not seen? That's the most important question that exists. Yet so few people actually ask that. What they have not seen, if they answer it, they'll tell you exactly why they've not hired. My gosh, if I have that background, I'm going to sell right to those points immediately. And they're going to go, oh, that's what I was looking for. Yes, thank you. Thank you for telling me what you were looking for so I could sell to it. Your job in the interview is to sell yourself. Not oversell yourself, but to sell whatever you bring to the table. Select and customize your work-life stories. Now, this part seems a little bit interesting here. I'm going to go back and really think of all the different ways to illustrate a certain skill or maybe a value that I have or any part of my background that might be of interest to them, something that elevates the brand, something that creates desire for them to choose me. That's teaching them how to select you. Now, their title is really decision maker. And the decision maker's job is to overcome those objections. So just like I said earlier, I think you already know what they could accuse you of. You haven't worked since last year. You haven't worked in our industry. You haven't worked commercial. You haven't worked nonprofit. You haven't worked in this field. All the endless things that you could write down right now and then craft a masterful comeback that overcomes the issue, somehow agrees with what they accuse you of, and then tell them why that's not important and why something else in your background is more important than that specific thing, whatever it might be. That's overcoming objections. Remember, they wouldn't waste oxygen if they didn't want you to overcome the objection. Even when they say, well, you're not right for this role, and here's why. Boy, I said that phrase many times as a recruiter. I would let people information dump on me as I was interviewing them, really digging around to try to figure out who was the real deal and which ones were really the fakers in their career, not really delivering, they had some expertise, but not really delivering the level of expertise that would be expected. In other words, how could I identify the superstars? Now, closing, scary sales term. I need two hands for this one. It's a two-parter on closing. Closing, well, people think they know what it means. Oh, I know what that is. I know that means asking for what you'd like. No, that is specifically not closing. Closing is asking for what you would like and then asking for agreement to it. Nobody wants to do that part because that's where they go, no. It's your job. It's your job. They're going to tell you, essentially, on the closing part, they're going to tell you what's wrong with you. And I know that's very distressing. You're going to go, really? Do I want to get them to tell me what's wrong? Well, the closing questions are for when they don't pick you. When they do pick you, no more questions. Schedule the next round. But when they don't pick you, it might sound like this. Wow, what an amazing discussion, John. I had such a great time. I can't even believe this is actually an interview. It's been so enjoyable. We have a few more people to see. We have get back to you in a few weeks or probably never. No matter how nice that starts out, when it ends anyway, except with a buy sign. Buy sign in interviewing is really clear. Here's the first buy sign. Oh, gosh, we'd love to bring you back to meet so-and-so. Great. Indication, doesn't have to be scheduled, but indication that you made the next round. Great. Buy sign. Quit selling. Go for booking the date and time. Get it done. Step out of your way before you cause the whole thing to derail. Second buy sign is, oh, gosh, we'd love to get your references. We'd like to move toward offer. Great. Anything other than that, no matter how flattering it sounds, means you did not win. Doesn't mean you lost yet, but you didn't win. So if this were an in-person interview, I always joke about, well, why would you get up and leave the room? I don't mean to sit there so long. They're going, security. I mean, they wouldn't have wasted the oxygen if they didn't think, convince me. So the closing piece is simply, they're telling me thanks, but no thanks, or thanks, but no thanks for the moment. We got some more people to consider. And then your job is to interject that conclusion before they get done and pose a question. Posing this question to them will help them think of their process of hiring on a two-dimensional timeline, and they're going to think about you in comparison to this two-dimensional timeline and where you are compared to the finish line, and then they'll know exactly what is wrong with you, and they're going to tell you, which is the only way you can overcome that objection in their mind. So doing this with the no buy sign, let's break it down for you. Pretty simple. We're going to use these closing questions. We simply help them visualize this whole thing, the whole concept of hiring as a two-dimensional race, just from our verbiage. And then they're going to think about us. They're going to think about everything that could be wrong with us, or something we didn't talk about area A, which was so important to my hire. Go through all those things. Another technique here, once you discover whatever you can discover, is go right to the very end and go, okay, well, Jack, Jim, or Jill, let me just ask you this. When I say, Jack, let me ask you this, what that really is verbally grabbing them by the shoulders and giving them a little shake, going, you paying attention? Paying attention? It's just a verbal device. Jack, let me ask you. Long, pregnant pause. What have you not heard, or what have we not discussed that would help you in your decision process for this position? Now, that's pretty good. That's pretty strong. I tend to frame it as a positive, negative, because you never quite know how their brain is wired. So I punch the first one, I'm friendly and optimistic on the second one, and then I lay out the benefit, which would help you in your decision process for this position. Now, if you've seen me before, you've maybe heard this before. This is not really strong enough for John. So let's show you an even stronger one. Jack, what have you not heard, or what have we not discussed that would help you in your selection of me as the very best individual for this role? And I've had clients go, oh, I couldn't say that. I'm like, well, then you're not going to get this job, because someone will find the fortitude, the steel to be able to say this, even if they have to bite the inside of their cheek while they're saying it, going, oh, I can't believe I'm saying this. Do you feel this way about yourself? Then you have to say it. Now, in reality, I am shy and introverted, and yet this is what you see here. And this is what you see when I'm live in front of an audience as well. It doesn't change the core of who I am, but you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. Your job is to sell, inspire. So to recap how to build your whole plan itself, you're going to build your full agenda, understanding who you're going to meet. How am I going to persuade those people? Select and customize those work-life stories. So I'm not going to tell all these stories, but I have to have these stories at the ready. Oh, you want to hear this story right off the shelf, and I'm ready to tell it. Have them ready. No buy sign. I have to ask them what's missing. I have to overcome those objections, and I have to close them as being the very best selection. I have to plant that seed. Well, John, I don't think you'd be the best if you didn't have a strong area A. And you know what? We didn't even talk about that. Let's talk about it now. Let's also talk about a little bit of video interviewing. Oh my gosh. Now, I used to have folks come to my live lectures at the public library and Department of Labor and those kind of things. And people would go, oh, do you, on occasion, rare occasion, they go, oh, do you do anything with video interviewing? I'm like, no. Not that I couldn't at that point, but it's because individuals are usually terrible at video interviewing. And so why would I ever send someone down a road where it's not going to be so successful to them? But this last year has taught us that we all have to change, including virtually every interview and every meeting for a lot of our works tend to be over Zoom or Meet or whatever the technology might be. That part really doesn't matter. So you're going to have to prepare for this video interview. You're going to have to think about how in this COVID-19 era, how does that change the equation for the whole interview process? What should I do differently? Well, let's not forget the chemistry and confidence piece. Now, this part here, before I show you my video setup, I'm going to disclose everything that's creating the visual you see today. But I grabbed some Zoom visuals right off the internet. They're right there. And I just want to point out a few things that would not be good. Now, chemistry and confidence win the day. Do you see it here? You know, I don't even know if this person knows it's a job interview. And I don't think they're going to go work for a baseball team. So, gosh, I'm not sure really this works at all on any level. Chemistry and confidence win the day. Let's see here. Do you see it here? Well, I don't really see much of anything here. I need to see you. And this framing up against the window, You crouching down, it diminishes you. I can't see you. In fact, all I can really see is whatever's out your window, which is drawing my attention away from you. So this one doesn't work either. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? I really don't. I don't really see it here. Now, this person may think they're confident. I don't see the confidence here. I'm really not interested in your ceiling, and I'm certainly not interested in looking up your nose. You can imagine here today, as I stand in the studio giving this lecture, you can probably imagine where the camera is, which is at my eye level, not way down, at my belly button level where I have to look down somewhere and then suddenly I have to get over the camera and flare my nostrils, and it doesn't work. Think about all of your framing. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? Chemistry, no. You know what? I'll give the confidence. So I don't feel like I want to, but I'll give it. You know what, though? I'm not interested in the ceiling. I'm not interested in this person's attitude. And you know what? I know a lot of folks push their way through as a steamroller. That's the energy I feel off this. That's not going to work. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do I see it here? Chemistry, I really don't feel it. I don't feel it. Confidence, I'll give the vote for the confidence before I take it away. I suspect this person actually doesn't have confidence, and there's a couple indicators. One is this swapped out background. Now I have a background right here. I'm in the studio. Swapped out background on this, what you see here, but it's visually much more distracting. So I keep looking at the background and not at the person. You are the product. And also, if you want to have chemistry, if you want to feel connected, I don't need to see a boom mic, and because we're not gaming here. And that doesn't make me feel good about you. Not what we want to hire. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? You know what? I will give the chemistry vote. I will give the confidence vote on this one. So is there something wrong with this one? Attention to detail, please. Also is a demonstration of how you'll pay attention to detail if I hire you, if I choose to invest by hiring you. Don't get upstage. This person, while they may be nicely framed in the room, they suddenly have this giant picture right behind their head that continually pulls the eye. I'm endlessly trying to figure out what that picture is. So this is not the right thing to allow yourself to be upstaged. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? You know what? I'll give the chemistry vote. I'll give the confidence vote. But it suffers from the same problem. I get what they were trying to do with the nice curvature of the wall and the pictures and everything else. But look at what it created. It created terrible reflection. And all I really can do is, when I'm not listening to this person speak, I keep looking at their pictures, trying to figure out what's on that wall. Again, they're being upstaged by their setting. Doesn't work well. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? You know what? I will give the chemistry vote. I will give the confidence vote. But you know what? I'm not looking for Princess Leia. I don't need giant little bun headphones. So don't wear giant headphones. That is not a great look. I do understand that you might like listening to the call or video that way. It's not about your comfort. It's about looking great for them. By the way, I should mention, I have hazel eyes. My eyes are very sensitive to light. I am standing in the middle of a light storm right now, which I never enjoy except if I'm speaking. And then somehow all of my dislike of the light disappears. All the pain in my eyes disappears. It's not about being comfortable. It's about being selected. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? You know what? I will give the chemistry vote. I will give the confidence vote. Let's talk about this background. Now, obviously, this is just a stock photo. But you know what? It's the right stock photo. It's the right stock photo that gives a little depth. You see how it creates the depth in how it's there. Just like my studio is creating depth. Let's just break a little bit of fourth wall right now, or the wall right behind me. I'm 3 inches from the wall behind me. So yeah, I create a little depth with this. This person creates a little depth. It's very nice. Works nice with the lighting on their face. I think it looks great, but don't wear medium headphones either. I don't want to see your headphones. I'm not hiring you because of the headphones. All I imagine is you're going to look like some telemarketer when you're talking to one of my clients, because you might show up talking to one of my clients this way, and that would not be okay. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? You know what? I will give the chemistry vote. I'll give the confidence vote. Let's talk about framing. Look at this framing here. Now, I do wish it were not so downward. Yes, that's something that still should be corrected. We have to elevate the computer, elevate the camera. I know it's not comfortable up there. It doesn't matter. Get the camera to the right level. Other than that, though, look at left and right. There's just enough interesting bit to provide interest without distraction. This person stays center stage. And you know what? Overall, if all things were equal, which they really never are, this one is the winner. Now, we're going to teach you all the video things in just a moment, but really quickly, we're going to run through my interview checklist. So in addition to all the other discussion we've had today, the interview checklist is just one more way to think about, did I forget something before my interview? First thing, we're not going into a lot of detail on each of these since we already have, is do your research on the job, the company, and the company culture as much as possible. I bet you actually, if you're qualified for this job, if you're the right one I should consider hiring, I bet you could put that job description aside and write your own job description that's far better. That's what you should do. Write a far better job description right now yourself, and then pull a few things off the actual job description that still may make sense. Maybe I look at competitors, someone doing the same job at any company that's out there that's a competitor. How do they talk about the job? That will help me change things too. Do your research on all these things that will help you be ready for the conversation, because it's a date. It's got to be about them before it's ever about you. And if you don't know enough about them, it's not really a date. Do the needs analysis early in the meeting. Don't answer questions. Sidestep it. Oh, I'd love to answer it before I do. Sidestep it. Find out their perspective, what's important, what's on fire, all those kind of things. But I don't actually say what's on fire or what's broken, because that they're not going to tell us. I have to get them to tell me. I have to get them to want to tell me. Oh, behave. Your body language is speaking volumes. Gosh, when I would be a recruiter, sometimes I'd invite people in for a pre-screen interview. They'd come in. I had an 11 o'clock interview with this person. They'd come in. It's 10:35. Oh, I'm going to show them I'm eager. 10:35. You think that's okay? That is not okay. Suddenly now they have to call me because I can't leave you sitting out there 25 minutes. Your 11 o'clock is here. Oh, my day's out of control already. Now I have to put on a happy face and have to come out to you. Oh, hi. I'll be out just at 11 or maybe just after. A little bit of a tough morning. Speak with you soon. And then as I walk away, I'm like, oh, messed up my day already. Customer service. That whole time I would go out there and I'd shake people's hands and I go, ooh, not really, but in my brain, ooh, wet. I get it. Couple things on the body language. You got to watch the wet hands. So gentle relaxation on our pant leg or something, not like grip, gentle relaxation on the clothing. Never let them see this stuff. Let's be careful there. The other thing is we have to learn how to not eyeball. Oh, I'm very eager. I want this job more than anything. Creepy security. Yes, I have to give them a little bit of love, and I have to look away occasionally to think, and I have to give them a little bit of love and then look away to think, even though I don't need to. Balance. Demonstration of how you'll be to work. How perceptive you'll be. Dress like you're a success. If I came on camera dressed as I was even moments before the lecture, I was out for a little bit of cardio, tights, 5-finger shoes. You can imagine the outfit that gets the looks. You would not take my advice if I was on camera looking like that. You'd go, who's this guy? Why would I listen to this guy? This is what you expect. You have to be the product. I don't care that in your work life you may not have to dress up. This is your chance to outmaneuver the competitor. If the competitor shows up looking better than you, behind the competitor. You don't want to be behind any one of your competitors. Now, I'm giving you so much to think about today, you're going to forget to actually listen. A lot of your job is to listen and between the lines, absorb what is there, think about it, strategize even while you're holding the conversation, and then move ahead. Your job is to, I know you're there to evaluate, is this right for me? Yes, that's part of the interview process, but they can't see that part. It's a date. If you go on a date and go, no, what do you like? And what kind of guy do you like? And what do you like to do? And right away, I don't get rid of this guy. I'm not, it's a date is all about you. So you are there to sell yourself And in that process of discussion, yes, you're going to evaluate whether or not it's right for you. Why don't you simply get the offers, and then you can turn down the ones in a professionally appropriate way that still keeps the doors open for any of those offers that really aren't the right one for you. Now, would you like to make more money? Everybody would like to make more money. You know, John Crant would like to make more money. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the secret. If you would like more money, I certainly do not want to give you more money. If you need more money, I'm very likely to try to find a way to give you the more money. So this is the point where you do have to maybe open your soul a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit of a confessional moment. Grew up Catholic, I know all about that stuff. So the way you get the best offer is to not talk about money. Now, I would tell clients this, and they go, but when? Don't talk about money. But when? Don't talk about money. I have one of my clients that is English as a second language. So, you know, they're missing some stuff in live time. And they were, a few years back, they were interviewing at a pretty large organization, institutional organization. And they went through 3 or 4 face-to-face interviews. They went through a 6-panel interview. Then they went through come on up and have an off-site coffee. No, that's another interview. Then we thought we're getting the call, and they're like, oh, we're having an open house on Saturday. Why don't you come up and work the open house? I'd love to. Or you're not going to get the job. So we did. And then finally we get the call, and the manager is flabbergasted going, oh, you're not in the system. We don't know how much you're making. Masterful. And my English as a second language client successfully navigated away from that question every single time. They even got a sense that 2 questions from now, you're going to ask me about money. And they interject a compelling, interesting question that turns the corner and distracts them. And they just don't come back most of the time. So that's the real secret, is don't let them think about money and you before you've ever had a chance to really romance them about what you bring to the table, your skill set, why you'll be a change maker in their organization. Then at that point, when they fall in love with your skill set, they think of a different number. Now, if you get trapped like most people do, oh, John, what are you looking for financially? Oh, shucks, you did it to me again. Okay, I'm going to have to answer that one. Oh, gosh, Jack, Jim, or Jill, I don't really know. You know, I'm never really going to answer that. The question is actually, how little can I pay you? I don't care how they phrase it. That's the question. There is no time I will ever answer that question. I will walk out the door right now and lose this opportunity before I'll ever tell them how little to pay me. So that answer is not coming from John. You're going to have to decide yourself what to do here. But what I recommend is simply, gosh, I don't know. You know what today is about for me, and we segue away from the answer, is really about finding the right home for my career. Ooh, there's a magical phrase you should write down. You know, and that's why I'm so, and then write back to them like a date, which is why I'm so excited by today's conversation. And then try to look at them without blinking for a minute or 2. Yes, I know it hurts after a while. And then when you need to, you can look away and blink, whatever it might be. Now, I know that's a simple deflection. That simple deflection will cut off 1/3 of the people, but 2/3 of the people are coming right back at you. I'm going to get that information. I'm going to get how little to pay you because I've been told to get that that question answered. And you know what? So second time around, they usually take the friendlier approach or the problem-solving approach, or you need help with your sharpening your pencil approach. Oh, let me just come around your side of the desk. I just need a ballpark, just need an idea, just need to know we're headed in the right direction. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Absolutely, they're going to use that information against you. There's no time I will ever capitulate or tell them the information. Now, that second deflection will cut off about another 1/3 of the people, which is half the people left. 1/3 still there. 1/3 coming back tends to take a sharp, big stick or club. I can't move you forward. I have to have some idea. Really? You're about to solve Parkinson's as a research scientist, and you think because you didn't send in a Word document, must send Word document. I would never send a Word document in my life that's my resume. Wouldn't leave my cold, dead fingers. You have no idea what your resume looks like if you dare send the Word document. Once you are done making that resume sing your praises, you convert it to a PDF, which freezes it in state. So that's one piece of advice I'm not going to listen to. The other is, must include compensation requirements. How little to pay? No, I don't think so. You think they're not going to interview this person that could change the course of Parkinson's because they didn't follow those rules? Nonsense. That's a real story, by the way, from one of my clients. Absolutely irresistible. They'll still see this person. But when they do come back after you with the hard, can't move you forward, well, you still know I'm not going to tell them. So I have to have a firm response this time, but I have to also, excuse my crassness of language here, I have to also not get into a pissing match. So in that case, I'm going to go, gosh, Jack, Jim, or Jill, I'm not sure what to tell you. A little more firm. And then I have a solution, which I'm going to propose. Now, when I propose this solution, I'm going to have to pause and then define the solution, because everybody's going to have a different thing up here. Once I mention the solution, I go, gosh, I'm not sure what to tell you, Jack, Jim, or Jill. You know what I'd say is make me a fair offer, based, of course, on the responsibilities for that role. By the way, that is the bare minimum. Would you like the bare minimum? That's what to say. Based, of course, on the responsibilities for that role. Another long pause. And, of course, those unique things that I bring to the table. And then I cap it off again with, just make me a fair offer. I'm sure it'll be fine. They're never getting a number out of me. By the way, if they make you a fair offer, I am sure it'll be fine. I'm also very, very sure they will not make you a fair offer, because almost everyone that I've seen will lowball you in the process. 85? No, offer them 75. I can always change it. Just see what happens. Yeah, it's usually that low stress behind the scenes as they're making this offer. And yet we build it up to this precipice that we're on the edge of endlessness. Think about your value. Think about being ready to answer the questions, timing to get it right. And that involves money as well. You know, if they make you an offer, that's very, very similar to someone stepping up to the altar. I do. And then, can I think about that till Monday? That's not going to be very popular. So, by the way, yes, you can think about it overnight. Yes, you can think about it over the weekend if you are going to negotiate. But if you're not going to negotiate, why would you lose that momentum? The whole orchestra has played up to the crescendo. They're waiting for the cymbals. And yet, back on Monday, or talk to you tomorrow. And you denied them the pleasure if you were going to accept the job anyway. By the way, if you're not going to accept the job, I understand that. We're all going to have to make our decisions on the financial end. You do not have to wait till you get the offer and be in a pressure moment in that second. I bet you're pretty sharp right now. I bet you could write down 3 numbers right now. I bet you could write down the lowest, nastiest, most insulting offer that you could expect today. Probably even a little bit lower than that. Some of them will lowball you a lot. Then write down what's an acceptable number that you wouldn't risk losing it. It's not what you want. It's not what you want, but it's an acceptable number you wouldn't risk losing it. Write that down. And then write down that number you're dreaming about. Not pie in the sky, something realistic that you're dreaming about. Great. Imagine you just get presented an offer at all the 3 of those numbers. You can do all the work in advance so that in the moment when the offer is presented, it's done. There's no other thought process. It's also you've done it when you're not under the emotional pressure. You've thought about it in the abstract. I recommend you do not negotiate unless you are willing to lose this offer. When people negotiate, they can lose an offer. Someone might become insulted, might disappear. They might move on with somebody else. So let's be careful there. The other thing on timing in a non-pandemic world is make sure if you're going for an in-person interview, let's be sure we're getting into the area close without going into the building 30 minutes in advance. Get to a coffee shop or park bench or who knows what. Go over your notes, go over all the preparation. Last 10 minutes, close that notebook. Just be centered. Trust that all the homework you do will be ready and accessible to you. And then time it so you can get through the building and get through lobby security and be in their office 5 to 15 minutes before your scheduled time. Not a moment sooner and not a moment later. That is a demonstration of how you'll be in your work life, how frictionless. Next stop opportunity the whole time. And don't forget at the very end to ask for the job. And asking for the job is as simple as at every interview stage, Jack, Jim, Jill, I'm so excited by what I've heard. Well, what's our next step? That's the same thing as asking for the job. Now, let's just go back and deal with video interviewing. Things can be scheduled, unscheduled, in person. There's a lot of different things that can happen to us. Your goal is to get to that finish line that somehow is going to help them see you as the winner. Most times it's going to be a video conference these days, and interviews are a sales meeting. So if it's a sales meeting, I have to take back the control. I have to make my case. I'm the one that's really in charge, so I have to develop this full agenda. Yeah, I may be used to allowing it to be an interrogation or feel like an interrogation, but if you understand people are going to get hired from chemistry, then you can walk in the room or walk in the room over video and work on building that chemistry. What's their background? How am I going to sweep them off their feet? What is it that is similar that we've gone through? Best way to build chemistry for anyone is simply to get them to talk about their favorite subject. And everybody's favorite subject is exactly the same. It's ourselves. So we're going to lure them up onto a soapbox, get them to talk a little bit about themselves. Maybe it's right at the start of the interview, and I might go, "Oh, Jack, I'm so excited for today's discussion. I had noticed that you used to be at XYZ company. What was it like over there? Or gosh, how did you make the transition?" Or any of those soft, innocuous questions will lure them up onto the soapbox. The moment they start speaking, I may make some sounds. Not another word is going to come out until they run out of oxygen. And when they get done, they're going to go, "I feel good for some reason." "Oh, I know why you feel good." And the whole time they're feeling good, they're disclosing things to you that you could use further on in your interview. Now, you have to be genuine. I already told you I'm shy and introverted. Am I not being genuine because of what you see here today? Well, this is me also. We're all multifaceted people. So yes, we may have to get out of our comfort zone, but you still have to be the core of who you are. So be real, be genuine, show real interest. If this was a date, you would have known all about that company, would have known all about the interviewer. Couple slides that shouldn't be here, or one slide that shouldn't be here. Part of your preparation is to also have all your marketing materials ready. That's part of your personal branding. So be sure to go back and watch the resume renovation lecture, or go back and watch the LinkedIn lecture, and refine the rest of your product and brand, all the different things that can separate you from others, and make sure to carry that across everything and tie it all together with your cover letter, and even a smaller version of the cover letter, which might become the email itself. So there's one synergistic, unified piece. The biggest part of the homework is actually answering the questions. So, each one of you are in a different field. You're the specialist in your field. Why don't you promote yourself up to manager, having to hire the position you're trying to get into? And what questions would you ask? Write those down. So how would you separate the people that know what they're doing from the people that don't know what they're doing if you were the hiring manager? What would you ask? To those questions, you're going to add 3 self-recruiter questions. First one is, tell me why I should hire you over all other people that I see. Oh yeah, it's kind of throwing down the gauntlet. Probably not likely to ask it this way, but I sure hope you're going to include elements of this answer in all your other answers, because you have to convey the answer. Another question is, tell me why my work life would get easier or better by hiring you. My work life. By the way, if my life gets easier or better, I hire you. So I sure hope you don't forget to have this angle in some of your answers. Again, not likely to ask you this question this way, but you have to have the answers mixed in. Of course, the last one you already know, which is convince them why it's the best business decision they're going to make today if they choose to hire you. And practice makes perfect. You have to practice. Friend or coach, I know a pretty good coach that does some great role playing if you need some practice. You have to practice till you're blue in the face. On occasion, you may even have to gently throw a competitor under the bus. Now, this is an advanced technique. This is a little bit of a bonus here today. This is not right for most people, but with practice, it can be very effective. Think about if you're working for some company, because your interviews are really a sales process. And if you're working for some company, then your job would be to go in and sell a product or service to another company. And would you even hesitate to throw the competitor under the bus? I mean, you could buy from XYZ, but here's why you should buy from us. And here's why you should not buy from XYZ. Oh, you'd throw them right under that front tire. However, if I did that in my interview, they'd be like, oh my gosh, a barracuda, a shark, don't let them in the room. They're going to get me next. So I have to do it in a very, very low-key, soft way. First, by focusing the bulk of my answers on the best business decision. aspect. So I'm constantly hitting value. And then I'm going to refer to something in that collection that's unique to me as keys to the success. Maybe it sounds something like this. Gosh, I think, Jackie, in this role, I think it would be incredibly important to look for experience with this and something that's unique to me. It's something I'd be sure to look at if I had to find the person that would be most successful. This, I know we're talking about vaccines left and right. This is like a vaccine. I don't expect anything immediate, maybe a little bit of a sore arm, but I don't expect anything immediate. I plant that vaccine, I just step away from it. And over time, this kind of phrasing begins to grow into protection so they don't choose your competitor. But it can really be anything in your background that somehow makes you unique, education or some other thing to you that somebody else doesn't bring to the table. For interviews, your follow-up is incredibly important. You know what I found very, very shocking over the years as a recruiter? Almost no one sends a thank you. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You'd think everyone would send a thank you. All you really have to do to be a little bit of a standout is to send a darn thank you. But, a thank you can solve many other things in advance. Years ago, before I was ever a recruiter, I was running a pre-press service bureau, 121 locations. This was a department in my larger retail operation. 121 locations. I had the #1 department out of all 121 locations nationwide. You can imagine that this was the #4 store in the country. You can imagine as the #4 store general manager goes up to be country manager of Canada, John's thinking, well, I should just ascend to the throne. I think you've seen my P&L in my department. It's pretty amazing. But this was before all my time as a recruiter. I'd certainly hired and fired people, not knowing what I was doing before. I gave a fairly good interview. I'm very conversant. I went in, I dazzled them as much as I could. I thought I did a pretty good job. I went back to my location. I called up my spy. Very good to have a spy in headquarters. Oh yeah, I think it went pretty well. No, I don't think so. They're in there arguing about you right now, something about your vision for the store. I'm like, oh, how could I fail to communicate my vision for the store? Oh my goodness. What did I spend all that time talking about? And so instantly I'm like firing off a thank you note. Thank you for great discussion, insights. Please don't thank people for their time. You have to be equal to every other person that you speak with. If you thank them for your time, you are now subservient to them. Your time is just as valuable to everyone else. So thank them for something else that's meaningful, the great discussion, the insights, whatever. And then segue to a new paragraph. By the way, we didn't get a lot of opportunity to talk about my vision for the store. If you'd like to discuss that, reach out on my cell phone at any time. Click send. Oh my gosh, I have to bullet point this out. They're going to call me any moment. Never called. Got the job. Look, he has a vision. It doesn't really matter what it is. He can't change anything in this corporate structure, but he has a vision. He has a vision. Now, as you walk out of the interview, we have to figure out why things are, or if there's something to fix in my thank you note process, I have to detect that. And so self-diagnosis is key. We're going to do a little bit of a debrief, actually a lot of a debrief that is really a lot closer to an interrogation, a grilling. I have to dig down and find out what went well, what didn't go well, where did I stick my foot in my mouth? Did I miss an opportunity? Yes, this is not to be mean to ourselves. This is to sharpen our skill set so that the next one and the next one and the next one get better and better and better. So in addition to all that, I'm going to save the most important question for last. The first part's really like a information dump. As soon as I come out of that meeting, park bench, coffee shop, whatever, don't go home. Information dump every tangential thought I'm having. There's a reason you're having that tangential thought. Capture it before it's fleeting and disappears. Then save the last question for last, which is not very uplifting, which is if they don't move forward with me or if they don't hire me, what's the reason going to be? This is something that should not have thought. This is much more like that knee-jerk little nerve reaction type thing. You're training your gut to regurgitate the right answer. Area A. You know what? I didn't talk about Area A. Was Area A important? Yeah, it was key to the job. And you didn't talk about it? Well, I've only done 2 projects. So you were afraid to talk about it, and yet it's critical to becoming hired. Now you realize you shot yourself in the foot, essentially. Okay. So thank them for their great insights, the discussion, everything else, and then segue. We didn't have a lot of time to discuss area A, where I've worked on projects such as this and such as that. I did not have to tell them it was the only 2 projects. Absolutely letter true what I'm saying. They imagine these are representative. Everybody has a first day, so don't be too shy about this, but whatever you say has to be true. If you'd like to discuss those areas, don't hesitate to reach out. I know you don't want that phone call, but they're very likely not going to reach out in this kind of thing. They're just going to be reassured at whatever concern they may have over you. Close on a positive note. I'm excited by everything we've discussed and how I can contribute to the team and what's our next step. Last few slides are video setup slides. Now, what you're looking at here, and we're going to bring this center stage so you can see it a little bit larger. What you're looking at here is my other half's work setup. My other half is set up out in the main room, butted up right against the window. Now, I already said I had hazel eyes. They're a little light sensitive. I could not sit there staring at the bright light out the window all day, but my gosh, don't they look amazing on Zoom? So I need to begin to think about, well, not about comfort. I have to think about how do I use every trick to make things work, to make things functional, and really have a much, much better result. So really any platform probably deals with most of these things. So if you're going to look great, you got to have great light. Now I'm in a room with the windows, shades down, everything else, and I'm surrounded by big light boxes, which you're going to see in a minute. I promised you my setup, and we'll show you that. But my other half realized they were looking down too much. Well, the computer has to be elevated. You know what? And sometimes, maybe certain parts of the day, I may need to pull some shades, and I may need to use a light ring. By the way, if you have access to one of these type light rings, they usually have some buttons on them to change the color shade. Blues or yellows or reds, whatever, we need to balance out whatever is going on with your camera. If you want to sound great, you're going to have a great microphone. Unfortunately, while your laptop microphone might be quite good, it's not great. There's a difference. You need a condenser mic, not very expensive to sound great. So get a decent mic, plug it in. To look great, you're going to need the right height. Yes, this is actually where I'm standing right now. Inside the larger bedroom, master bedroom, I am facing my ironing board without shame, piled up mostly empty Amazon boxes, although that big heavy one on the bottom with the red labels is my books. That one is not empty and is very heavy. Microphone stacked up on the left, everything else, you can see the beginnings of the light box around you. And elevated camera. What you don't see in this video, if you were to look back a month or 2 ago at some of the earlier videos, you'll see the video quality is different. I was not happy, again, with the video quality of the laptop, so I purchased an external camera, which is not very expensive, to suddenly look amazing. Your job is to present your brand the right way. Now, here's the flip of what you're seeing, or where I'm standing, I guess, right now. So, yes, I am standing between those boxes you see and that green screen on the wall behind you. So, yes, in reality, right here, standing in the studio, my feet actually don't move. My feet stay within about 1 square foot of space, and my body is allowed to move back and forth, and I stay completely within the framework. The other thing you have to remember is your job is not to look at the computer. Your job is not to look at your notes, although you might have some of those things to look at. Your job in almost the entire time that you're on screen is to look at the camera, so you can make the connection. Now, if I were doing this as an interview, I might put a wall behind my camera so I could literally put a few notes around the camera. And if I had to look at a few notes for some ideas, because I panic, I could look up without being down reading, because people see that stuff. Not great for you. So yeah, you're going to have light all the way around. I have 3 giant light boxes surrounding me. That's part of it. You're going to need a place to put essentials like a clicker when I need to put it down, or if I need a drink, or occasionally I might need a tissue. You don't know what you might need. I've got to have my phone handy. All that stuff has to have a place, and yet it can't interrupt what you're presenting. Of course, don't forget to look at the camera, and don't forget to fall in love with that bright lighting. That's interview intervention for today. There's so much here for you to work on. Do the best you can. Your job is to take your first step or your next step and really improve with every single time that you're out there. Remember, there's a few resources over on the LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn lecture itself, you can see on my Self-Recruiter website, halfway down that page. All that kind of fun stuff is there. And we have some really great lectures coming up, which I'm sure you want to know about. So today was interview intervention plus video interviewing techniques. Coming back on Thursday, that's a 12 noon lecture this Thursday, March 18th. That's charting your career transition. How do we really pack up all of our valuable goods and now go and do something else with that? Week from today, same 5 o'clock time frame. Week from today on March 23rd, I'll be doing marketing yourself to the decision maker. How is it that we reach right out to this person that we don't know and get them not to chase us away, but they're so interested in potentially hiring us for their team? We're going to take you through that whole process. And then next Thursday, that's a week from this Thursday at 12 noon, we'll be doing resume renovation, all the secrets to really create a winning resume. Thank you guys for joining in. Please do like, subscribe, click the bell, all those kind of wonderful things, and share it with all your friends. And you know what? If your resume is not singing your praises, if your LinkedIn profile is not elevating your brand the correct way, I think you know of a great career coach to work with, and packages are over on my website under the services tab. And if you need to talk before we figure out which package is the right one for you, send me a quick email and we'll set up a time to speak. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.